Hello everyone, good morning and welcome to the Hindu Analysis for 5th March 2024 on your same platform, Byjus Exam Prep IAS. Now, before I start the discussion for the day, a very important announcement. As you all know, yesterday a very important judgment has been given by the Supreme Court, and this Friday, Anubhav Saransh sir would be taking a explained detailed analysis on Supreme Court ending the immunity for the legislators who are taking the bribes. So of course this is the highlight of today's lecture, but then I will be covering it in, I would say, briefly, and sir would cover it in a huge detail. Please jot down this: 8th March 7 p.m. on the same platform. Now let us begin with today's discussion. The first one, as I said, this was the highlight that the Supreme Court has ended the immunity for legislators taking bribes. So this is going to be studied by us today also. Very important discussion. Related to that only, Supreme Court also said, allow the MPs, MLAs to speak without fear of harassment in house, says Supreme Court. I would rather say this is not that important because everything would be covered here only, but still one or two quotations of the Supreme Court can be remembered by us. Third, no positive result from talks with Shah, that is Mr. Amit Shah. This is the Ladakh leaders speaking. Now, an old repetitive article talked between us and from this platform minimum 2 times in the last few days, yet we shall see what exactly they are saying. Number 4, SBI seeks time till June 30th to disclose details of poll bonds. Now, if today's highlight is this, I personally believe last month's highlight was the Supreme Court's judgment on electoral bonds. And with regards to that, SBI is seeking time from the Supreme Court till June 30th. So we shall see why SBI needs 4 months' time to disclose all these details. 5th, what's in a surname? Now, this is a social issues topic. It's an editorial of the day where we shall see a lady is fighting the case in Delhi High Court, and she is fighting against the notification issued by the ministry, that is central government ministry, about the name or the surname that she is using even after the divorce with her husband. So we shall see what exactly is in surname. Now, many things many people would say, and some people would say what's there in the name. 6th, Prachanda quits Congress alliance, joins hands with Oli. So again, in our neighboring country, a lot of political instability can be seen, and what we see is that Nepali Congress has been ditched by Mr. Prachanda, and he has gone ahead with Mr. KP Oli. So in the last 1 or 2 years, you will see too many frequent movements have happened. In our words, if I say, within a year or two, in the politics of Nepal, we can see Ayaram, Gayaram tendencies. 7th, the quick transformation of Russia-North Korea ties. Now, the best example of enemy's enemy is my friend. They both have a common enemy at this moment, America. And that has brought these two countries very, very close. So we shall see what exactly is happening on that front. A vaccine that prevents 6 cancers. Now, this is again cervical cancer related editorial that we have studied in the last few days, but yet we shall see again today. 9th, 10th and 11th topic for prelims: 3 degrees to year-long droughts in Himalayas. Trust me, I wanted to keep these two also in mains only because hardly there is anything for prelims, but then from environment perspective, you shall see a new study has been done for 6 countries, and this study clearly says that all these countries for which the study has been done, including India, China, etc., must adhere to the Paris targets. Otherwise, in different areas, like you can see, droughts may come in Himalayas. The 10th topic, big Swedish study hints at link between bowel disease and infant diet. Now, what is being fed to the children at homes may in the long term decide whether they are having the bowel diseases or not. most of the points that you will see in this topic is something that we all know. Feed them good food. Now, what is good? Everybody knows sugary things would not be that good. But then what should be given, like fish and all? So here all that is being talked about. Last but not the least, every one of us, we are all tired of many a times spam or fraud calls. And if that's the case, you can file a complaint on Chakshu. Now, what exactly is Chakshu? This we'll have to see for today's prelims analysis. So these are the 11 topics for the day. Let us dive deep into the first one with the historic judgment of Supreme Court. Supreme Court has ended immunity for legislators taking bribes. Now, yesterday, a seven-judge bench, had given this important ruling. What they are saying? They are saying that the parliamentary privilege or immunity will not protect legislators who are taking bribes to vote or speak in parliament or the state legislative assemblies. That means they are liable to the criminal prosecution. So clearly they are saying just because MPs or MLAs, they have these parliamentary privileges, they have these parliamentary immunities, does not mean that no corruption or bribery charge would come if they have taken money from voting or speaking in parliament. In this judgment, and the good thing is, you all can see, this was a judgment which was unanimous. All the 7 judges, they agreed that this corruption and bribery, if it is done, it erodes Indian parliamentary democracy. So this verdict was authored by CJI Mr. D.Y. Chandrachud. And as I said, even though this is a 7-judge bench, they were unanimous that this has to be done. Now, some of you will say, what's the big deal, in the sense that it looks so normal. If I take a bribe or you take a bribe, we would be convicted. We might be, the proceedings would be started against us. The problem here is that historically, there has been a judgment. This judgment came in 1998. And then a 5-membered Supreme Court bench, giving its ruling on a matter related to Jharkhand Mukti Morcha bribery case, had said totally against this. They had said that the legislators, they have immunity. They cannot be prosecuted if they go ahead and vote in the parliaments as agreed. So no charges of corruption would be on them. So you can see the present judge or present panel of judges or the bench is, I would say, clearly rectifying a historic wrong, a historic grave error. And that's what they said. We do not want to perpetuate this error. Now, before I go further, let me show you the images of the 5 judges who had given the last judgment. And remember, last time it was a 3:2, I would say, split verdict. Justice S.C. Agarwal and Justice Dr. A.S. Anand had given their minority judgments. On the other hand, Chief Justice then S.P. Bharucha, Justice S. Rajendra Babu and Justice G.N. Ray, they were on the majority judgment. So if I say it in some way, the present 7-judge bench, they have, more or less accepted the position of Justice Agarwal and Justice Anand. So now, as you can understand, if a MP or MLA has taken, bribe or has done your corruption, they would face criminal prosecution. Now, under what article they were safeguarded till now, this you should definitely know. So I've already said everyone, and I'll come back to this slide in a minute, that this 7-judge bench, they have said that the last time the majority of the 5-judge bench, they had erred in this case. They had made a grave error in this case. So I'll come to this slide in a minute. I'll talk to you about what exactly was this bribery case. Don't worry about that. But you all can see here. Please remember this. Chief Justice Mr. Chandrachud has reasoned that freedom of speech and expression, which includes totally voting in the House as well as attendant immunities, granted to legislators under Articles 105 and 194, did not extend to giving or taking bribes. I want you to remember this. I want you to remember both these articles 105 and 194. These two articles give the MPs, the MLAs, the immunity that inside the House, what their conduct is with regards to, let's say, asking the question, they have a complete freedom of expression, freedom of speech over there. Because you all understand, if this freedom of speech, if this freedom of expression is not there, is not given to the MPs, is not given to the MLAs, then our democracy will not flourish. So to fertilize a deliberate, a critical, a responsive democracy, we need, I would say, a very, very, sound things. I would say that these MPs, MLAs, they should be given the freedom of speech, freedom of expression to get a deliberate, critical and responsive democracy in our country. Now, please understand, this, let me explain to you. This was the case which came in 1998. But this judgment which yesterday the Chief Justice and the 7-member bench has given is regarding another matter which had come in 2012 Rajya Sabha elections. Now this matter came from your Jharkhand. So in Jharkhand, a legislator, JMM legislator, Madam Sita Soren. Now, if you all have some idea, she is the daughter-in-law of the Jharkhand leader, Mr. Shibu Soren. And in 2012, she was accused that she had taken bribes from a particular candidate. That candidate was an independent candidate. So it was accused that she has taken some 1.5 crore rupees, and in this matter, even her father had been accused and all that. We are not getting into that. But later, Madam had denied culpability. She said she cannot be prosecuted in this matter because ultimately she had voted for her own candidate. So please understand, accusation is what? That she took the bribe, money from an independent candidate. But the MLA later said that, see, I cannot be prosecuted because ultimately I voted for my own nominee. Though the Jharkhand High Court refused to quash the charge sheet which was filed against her, then she came to the Supreme Court, where yesterday Supreme Court also clearly said that, see, you cannot be given immunity on the basis of this point. So you can see here, give me a second. This is the present case. Present case is filed by JMM leader Madam Sita Soren, voting for an independent candidate, taking bribes on this, and her denial on the basis that she had voted for the official nominee, even though Jharkhand court has refused to quash this judgment. Now coming back to JMM case. Now you can see, unfortunately, how the things happen. In 1998 also it was related to JMM, Jharkhand Mukti Morcha. Now slightly, I'll take 5 minutes here, slightly to give you an idea what was happening in our country in those days. Now, 1989, you all know, Congress led by Mr. Rajiv Gandhi lost the elections. Even though Congress was the largest party, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi did not, go for power, and Congress also did not Go and later Mr. Vishwanath Pratap Singh and later Mr. Chandrasekhar became Prime Ministers of India for around 1 year's tenure. Now again, in 1991, elections happened. As you all know, these elections happened in the shadow of the unfortunate assassination of Mr. Rajiv Gandhi. Rajiv Gandhi had died in Sriperumbudur and Congress, somehow scrapped in these elections, became again the single largest party, getting 232 seats out of the 487 that they had contested. Now you all know, majority is 272. Now Congress in those days went ahead and made Mr. P.V. Narasimha Rao as the Prime Minister of India. They chose Mr. P.V. Narasimha Rao. Now, Mr. Rao had a very, very difficult task at his hand. One of the things that he was facing was the grave economic crisis that India was facing. It was threatening the stability of the whole country. The macroeconomic stability was being threatened. And number two, the politics of India was going through a churn. So, you all know the Ram Janmabhoomi movement was going on, which ultimately in those days had seen the demolition of Babri Masjid on 6th December 1992. Now, there were a lot of things going on, and in this background, in 1993, a no confidence motion was brought by CPIM against the Congress. Now at that moment, Lok Sabha had 528 members, whereas Congress numbers were 251. You can clearly see that Congress needed around 265 votes. Then only they would have, got the majority. So they were short of around 14 members from simple majority. When this no confidence motion came, discussions happened for 3 days, and on July 28th of that year, 265 voted against this non-confidence motion, 251 voted in favor of this confidence motion. So clearly, Mr. P.V. Narasimha Rao's government scrapped because they got 265 votes voting against this. Now 3 years later, that is in 1996, there was a person named Mr. Ravindra Kumar belonging to Rashtriya Mukti Morcha. And he filed a complaint with CBI. Now please remember, by the time this complaint had come, P.V. Narasimha Rao's tenure was over. But then in this complaint in July, they alleged that Mr. P.V. Narasimha Rao, along with his many colleagues of those days, colleagues like former Chief Minister of Haryana, like Bhajan Lal, another being Satish Sharma from UP, Vidya Charan Shukla from Madhya Pradesh. All these people had conspired by giving bribes to the MPs to vote in their favor. One unique case here was of Mr. Ajit Singh. On him, the accusation was that he took the bribe and even then did not vote. So all this was going on in those days. Now, you can see his accusation that when this no confidence motion came on 28th July, some of the MPs, they were bribed to an amount of more than 3 crores. And that's why the Jharkhand Mukti Morchas, mainly their MPs, were implicated. That's why it came to be known as JM bribery case. So JMM, their MPs like Suraj Mandal, their Supremo, Shibu Soren, Simon Marandi, Shailendra Mehto, they all were accused, and they had around 6 MPs. They were all accused that you all have taken money to vote in favor of the Congress government or in against the non-confidence motion brought against Congress government. Now, as you know, this matter reached to the Supreme Court in those days, and here the judgment was this in favor of Mr. Rao. And their logic was that, see, the MPs and MLAs within the house, they have a sort of immunity and we cannot act against them. So this was the judgment. I hope in the last 15 minutes I have made it very, very clear. But even then, I'll tell you very clearly that this matter would be, again discussed on Friday. Again, I'm telling you, Anubhav Saransh sir will be discussing this matter in detail on what day? On your Friday at 7 p.m. on this issue. Now today another article also came, allow the MPs, MLAs to speak without fear of harassment in the House, says Supreme Court. And now trust me, if you look here, this is the observations of the Supreme Court with regards to the same 1998 JMM bribery case, which yesterday Supreme Court overturned its decision that was given around 25-26 years ago. So yesterday in the observations, the Honorable Chief Justice of India had made certain observations. The Constitution Bench overall, they made these observations. You can see here. The freedom of elected legislators to discuss and debate matters of the moment on the floor of the House is a key component of a deliberative democracy in a parliamentary form of government. Absolutely. Who denies that? For those, again, let me bring the history. First time these Britishers, through their Council Acts in 1861, had given the Indians a chance to come in these bodies. At that moment, three Indian members, their names, Sir Dinkar Rao, Maharaja of Banaras and Maharaja of Patiala. From then onwards, and specifically from the formation of Congress in 1885, Congress, initially the moderate leaders always demanded political reforms. And in the political reforms demanded by the Congress leaders or the moderate leaders in those days, the most important demand used to be that these houses, they should have more Indian members, better they are elected, and they should get, these houses should get more powers. They would like to, I would say, question the government on all the wrong things that the government would have done. In history, you would have studied Gopal Krishna Gokhale, the eternal opposition leader of India, would always, I would say, corner the government in those days through his speeches. It is said on the budget days, government would always be worried by what Mr. Gokhale would say because he would come with his facts and figures. Same thing, it's absolutely true then, it's true today. If in the parliament, if your members of parliament, if in the legislatures, your MLAs, your MLCs, if they are not raising the questions without any fear, then the democracy is in big, big peril. So the ability of legislators to conduct their functions in an environment which protects their freedom to do so without being overawed by coercion or fear is constitutionally secured. So please understand, Supreme Court is saying every MLA, every MP, they have this right, they have this constitutional right. Go and ask questions. Nobody will ask you anything. You have all the rights to do that. But then, do not take bribes. Yesterday's judgment has made very, very clear that, see, bribery is not allowed. So here, as citizens, legislators have fundamental right to the freedom of speech and expression, but nowhere they have the right to have any sort of bribery. So they have all the privileges. Any vote that they are casting as a MP, they have the privileges. That is also protected by freedom of speech. Because freedom of speech, it becomes a critical component of, as I said, deliberative democracy when you are talking about a parliamentary form of government. All this is very, very important. So please understand, in this there is only some observations that has been done by Supreme Court, which you should keep in mind. Now, just one last thing I'll tell you in this. Yesterday Supreme Court also said whether you have immunity or what you call as parliamentary privilege depends on a twofold test. Two things has to be tested. Number one, if the legislators' actions, they enhance the dignity, the authority of the government, authority of the house, and the members as a collective, you have the immunity. Secondly, if it comes under the right to free speech, protest, freedom from arrest, so this twofold test, if it is applied, immunity is there. Remember, any claim of immunity will fail if it does not satisfy either of these 2 points. So please understand, let's say if I'm an MP, if I become, and if I go and I do something that collectively is enhancing the dignity of the house and the members as a collective body, in raising the question against the government or praising the government, if I do that, I'm immune. Secondly, if it is cast with regards to your freedom of speech, freedom of protest, freedom from arrest, so there the immunity would be there. Let us move to the third article. Now please understand, this is an old article. I'll show you. You all can see on 20th February, Centre has agreed to discuss the statehood, says Ladakh leaders. And on 20th February, Ladakh administration had formed a recruitment board for non-gadgeted posts. So on 2 days, we have already discussed this. Now, in nutshell, if I say to you, basically, there are some demands being made by Ladakh. You all know Ladakh is presently a union territory after the division of Jammu and Kashmir. So, some of the civil society groups, leaders, they are making certain demands. And with regards to that demands, yesterday they met Honorable Home Minister Mr. Amit Shah. But according to them, this was not productive. There was no positive results that came out of this. So you can see here, LAB and KDA. No need to remember, but if you remember it, the full form is Leh Apex Body and Kargil Democratic Alliance. These two are protesting and they are demanding certain things. Now, first of all, please understand, one of the demands is that presently Ladakh has one parliamentary constituency. Rather, it should be made into two. One that is your Kargil and another one is Leh, because, demographically, culturally, these two are very, very dissimilar. So, apart from that, they are demanding statehood should be given to Ladakh, include Ladakh in the 6th schedule of the constitution. Thus, they would be given the tribal status. There should be job reservation for locals. And as I said, parliamentary seat, each for Leh and Kargil. Please understand, they were also demanding this, which to some extent has been accepted by the government on 28th February. Please see here, former MP Thupstan Chewang, who is also the chief of Ladakh Buddhist Association, has been leading this particular talks. Now, as you can clearly understand, they are saying the talks have failed. And we have also discussed that, see, Ladakh, which has a population of 2.74 lakh, according to 2011 census, they are making this demand. Over the last few years, there has been a lot of protest with regards to their demands that they want protection of their land, protection of their resources, of course, the employment for the locals, and they are also complaining about bureaucratic overreach. Now, talks are continuously going on. The I would say the officers from our side, the government of India, they have already said that they will examine how Ladakh could be put under the 6th schedule. With regards to others also, they are going and they are talking, but then nothing has been finalized now. Please understand what is going on in Ladakh. You have to keep an eye on that, specifically for your topics of statehood formation. That would be something which you should keep in mind. Now, fourth topic. SBI seeks time till 30th June to disclose details of poll bonds. Now, please understand, we have last month studied in big length on electoral bonds. In fact, we did explained article totally on this regarding the Supreme Court judgment on this. Now, that day in the Supreme Court judgment, Supreme Court had also directed the SBI regarding disclosing the details of these electoral bonds. Now, in reply to that, the State Bank of India has come to the Supreme Court and is asking time till June 30th. They are saying that, see, we agree to your direction. Whatever you have said, we shall do it. But then we need more time. What had Supreme Court said? Supreme Court had said that make public details of all the electoral bonds which have been purchased since April 2019, including the date of purchase, the name of the buyer, and the denomination of the bond. So clearly, full, I would say, disclosure had to be done. And this was the directive when the Supreme Court was cancelling or striking down this electoral bond scheme, saying this is nothing but unconstitutional, it is arbitrary. So this judgment had been given by Supreme Court on February 15th. Now, let us understand, why is SBI saying that we need more time? Initially, Supreme Court had said to SBI that, see, we need all this data by March 6th. Today is March 5th. So SBI yesterday went to the Supreme Court and said that, see, we would need more data. Supreme Court is saying give the data by March 6th and we shall publish it, or rather you should publish it on March 13th on your website. Now guys, in the application, and let me take another page. In the application, SBI has sought and has said that there are some practical difficulties. They are having some problems. They cannot do it within this time frame. Now, what are these practical difficulties? One, they are saying there are problems with regards to decoding exercise, and of course, the problem is with regards to timeline. Now, what is decoding that has to be done? SBI says that when this scheme had come, we had taken some very stringent measures. Under these stringent measures, the name of the donor, or rather the identity of the donor, the whole idea was to keep it anonymous. So we have taken stringent measures to keep it anonymous. Now, if we have to bring it out, then we will have to decode those electoral bonds. Plus, we would have to match the donor to the donations that they have done. And they are saying this is a very complex process. Why it is very complex? Because they said that we had a very detailed SOP for 29 authorized branches which are across India, and there is no central database. Now please observe this point. SBI is saying that we have never maintained any central database. They are saying every detail of this donor, all the details, they have been kept in a sealed cover in the designated branches. Now, if we want to disclose this, you can understand what SBI is saying. See, everything is in the individual branches. Now, if we have to do, we will have a lot of information, silos of information that has to be checked and then matched. Now, some of you will say very clearly that in this time of digital age, why did SBI do this? So SBI in its application has also said this, that see, we had stored some data digitally and some data physically. SBI says the purpose of this was we did not want to keep all the details at one place. This way, any gathering of this data would have been very, very tough. Very tough. And that's why we have kept it at different branches and did not want to disclose that. Now, please understand everyone, this is the viewpoint of your SBI. Now, yesterday only there was another article in which the ADR stands for Association of Democratic Reforms. They have said they will oppose this SBI plea. Now, one of their founder members of ADR, they are saying SBI is lying. Why? They are saying, their point is, ADR says that no, all the data is in digital format. And even if you want data from different states, different locations, of course, it is not something which is impossible in today's age. How can you take some 4 months in collecting this data? Another person even says that all this data is in SBI's Mumbai branch. You know, donor names, redemption details, everything is in SBI's Mumbai branch. And that's why they should disclose it immediately. One concern many people are saying that if they take 4 months, by then the general elections would have happened. And ADR and all, they want that all this thing should be out for the public even before the general elections are conducted. So with that, we are done with the 4th topic of the day. Let us move to the 5th topic. Now, what's in a surname? I ask you, what's in a name? The thing is that there is a lady, Miss Divya Modi Tongia. She went to the Delhi High Court. Why? She went to the High Court saying that, see, she has been granted divorce and she now wants to go back to her maiden name. That means her name which she would have been using before her marriage. So she be allowed to revert to her maiden name once her divorce has come through. Now, logically you will say, okay, fine enough. What's the deal? If she wants to drop the surname of her husband, it should be done. But the problem is she has to come into court. Why? Because the central government, they have issued a notification. Under that notification, any married woman who wants to go back to her maiden name and use it after the divorce must either furnish divorce papers or NOC from her husband. Now, many times you can understand the NOC would not be there. And right now, because her divorce proceedings are going on, so she might not be having her divorce papers. So her point here is this notification is gender biased. Of course. Is the same thing for the men? Most probably no. Why it is for the women? So it is gender biased, creates unnecessary restrictions for women who want to exercise their constitutional right to choose their name. In her case, a change of surname, and this violates Article 14, 19 and 21. Now, please understand, this is in the High Court, and the next time you will hear this is on 28th May 2024. The High Court has sought the response from Centre at this point. Now, if you all understand, first and the most important point here is, if you all know these 3 articles, in polity, these 3 are referred as the golden triangle of the Indian Constitution. You all know Article 14, the right to equality, Article 19, the right to freedom, and Article 21, right to life and liberty. Very, very important fundamental rights and very important for anyone. They give the validity to the concept of rule of law. So, please understand, the first part of this is this much. Now, this is a case that is going on. Now, we have to take out the bigger things from this case. Just remember this lady's name and remember the fact that she is asking that her name should be changed and there is a problem because of the notification and how it is violating. Now, the bigger problem is, you all can understand, this issue pertains the issue of gender empowerment, gender equality, and specifically here the concern is about women who face a lot of harassment. Now, you all can understand, many of you might be attending this, maybe women who are married. If you have not taken, for example, if you have not, I should write, not opted for husband's surname after marriage, invariably the lady has to face a lot of unnecessary questions, a lot of paperwork. If you go to open a bank account, if you go to have the child's admission, if you go to passport office, everywhere there is a lot of questions that are being asked. Now the problem is, this is in a society, you all can understand, which is already facing a lot of caste-based hierarchies. They are now burdening the women with much more problems. Already the women are facing a lot of gender bias. They face a lot of humiliation at times. They face a lot of differences. And on top of that, the fact that this gender disparity goes on, this is absolutely not correct. UN also says that the greatest human right challenge in the world right now is achieving gender equality, achieving gender empowerment for the girls as well as women. Of course, a lot has been done, but the lip service is never going to give them everything that they desire. So this was your fifth point, editorial that came. Let us see the sixth point. You all can see a lot of movements happening in Nepal. Now, everyone, this article, there are 2-3 main characters here. In fact, 2 main characters are mentioned here and 3 political parties are mentioned. So all of you, okay, I've not taken this. Give me a second, just a second. I'll take one extra slide. Okay. See, it's very simple topic. Let me explain this. See here. There is a party called CPN. Full form, Communist Party of Nepal, and in bracket you can write Maoist Center. Their leader's name is Mr. Prachanda. The other party is of, I'll write here only, KP, only before that I should write Sharma. KP Sharma Oli, and his party is again Communist Party of Nepal, and guys, you can see in the bracket this side it is Unified Marxist Leninist, and third party is Nepali Congress. Now the problem is there are some other parties also, but we are not getting into that. And you don't have to remember the numbers also, but then let me just give you an idea that this party has got some 88 MPs. This party has 78 MPs and this party has 32 MPs. Now as you can see in the newspaper article, it is clearly that these two were in alliances till yesterday. And yesterday this alliance was broken. And now the new alliance is between these two. So old alliance is now this and this is the new alliance. So that means in Nepal we are having a communist government. You can all see very clearly their names. Communist Party of Nepal, Communist Party of Nepal. Of course, there is some differences between them. That's why, just like we have CPI and CPIM. So they might have CPI Nepal Maoist Center and Unified Marxist Leninist. Now, if you all see here, important thing, if you all noticed, who is the Prime Minister? Prime Minister is Mr. Prachanda. So you all can understand how good a politician he might be, that in a country which has around 275 MPs, his party had around 32 MPs. And yet, he is the Prime Minister, and the parties with 88 and 78 MPs, they are not the Prime Ministers. So, this is the case. So, clearly there is a lot of political instability which is clearly visible in Nepal. Number two, trust me everyone, today this topic may not seem to be that important for you, but I am very sure that in the Ministry of External Affairs and those who view the foreign policies, they would be observing these developments very, very closely. Because most of the times it has been seen that Mr. Oli's government, last times when he was the Prime Minister, his preference was always towards China. He had always had preferences. See, I'm not talking about the smaller parties. We are not, interested in discussing the politics of Nepal. What I'm trying to say is that Nepal again is having a coalition which, because of Mr. Oli, who has always been seen to be slightly more pro-China, is something that Indian administration would be watching very, very closely. Now, if you see here, and my center I'll write at MC and this I'll write as UML. So basically what happened is, elections happened here in 2022. Initially, there was communist government only. That is, the two communist parties, they came together. This was on December 25th, 2022. Even though, let me tell you, that when elections had happened, in the elections, Nepali Congress plus this party of Mr. Prachanda, they both were fighting together. Mr. Prachanda, after elections, demanded that I want to become Prime Minister. NC said no. So Mr. Prachanda went to the other communists and formed the government with them. So this is around December 9, 2022. Within 3 months, that is in February 2023, this party, the UML, they came out of the government. Why did they came out of the government? Because the first party, that is of Prachanda, they had decided to back a Nepali Congress leader as the president. So when they backed out, again Nepali Congress joined them and formed this alliance. So this happened in February. Within 13 months, this government has fallen and now there is a new friendship that has come here. So you can see, if I give you a perspective, in 16 months, Nepal saw an alliance between these two, a government between other two, then another government against other two, and now another government that they will be seeing. So you can see there is a lot of instability as far as Nepal is concerned. One of the reasons for this instability in Nepal is their electoral system. They have a 275 MP parliament. Out of this, 165 they are chosen under direct election, and 110 they are elected under the proportional representation system. So too many fragmented parties. These three are the main parties, and if you look at their numbers, this is 80, 110 and 198 is three major parties. You can see still there would be 77 small parties. So if tomorrow, you can see, if another group also comes, you would not be surprised. So that's the whole thing. Remember, right now only understand there is a too much of political fluctuations that's happening in Nepal's politics, and India would be closely observing this. Moving ahead, what is happening in Russia North Korea friendship? Now you all can see I brought a picture of both these gentlemen. You can see Mr. Putin and the words fail to describe this gentleman. So you all know the leader of North Korea and the leader of Russia. In the last few months, you can see I've got this major highlights of this. What has been observed is that North Korea, for those who do not know, its capital is Pyongyang, has traditionally, always talked about unification with Seoul. Seoul means capital of South Korea. So they have abandoned this idea. They are saying no more unification. And in the last few months, they have been making their ties with Russia much more stronger. So you can understand these all is leading to a lot of tensions in the Korean peninsula. Now, of late it has been observed the friendship between these two has become much stronger after Russia had attacked Ukraine in 2022, because Russia had strained its ties with all other international powers, and now they were looking at somebody to be their friend. Now, historically also, Russia and North Korea had historical relations. They have maintained ties in the Cold War era because they both have ideologies which are similar, that is of communism. So there has been ties between them which has seen some fluctuations according to the geopolitical realities of the time. But now, Mr. Putin, who is about to visit Pyongyang in 2024, he had visited this place in 2023, rather I should say, Kim Jong-un, he had visited Russia in September 2023, and now Putin is going to visit, and they are going to sign some very, very important deals. One of the gifts I was very happy to see, Mr. Putin has gifted a luxury Russian-made car, something similar that Mr. Putin uses to Mr. Kim. Don't take all the words, some words are sarcastic also. So you can understand, Putin is gifting this car to your North Korean friend. Now, why is this ties becoming so close? You all have to understand, Russia and North Korea, they both are emerging as a very important player for each other's. Artillery shells. You all know Russia is fighting Ukraine, and during this time, it is said that North Korea has allegedly it is said that has provided a lot of key arms, artillery shells to Russia to fight Ukraine. And that's why in the last slide I have mentioned, you can see Mr. Putin has offered technical support for the development of spy satellites to Mr. Kim. There is also a talk about a trilateral naval exercise between these three, although it's unconfirmed. The first batch of tourists that came to North Korea after COVID also came from Russia only. So all this clearly shows that Russia and North Korea are having a lot of good ties. There are, you can see here, let me come to this. There are some other points like energy collaborations. Russia is providing a lot of fuel to North Korea. Further talks are about more things to be done in energy. You all can understand Korea is all the time, North Korea is all the time suffering from chronic food shortages. So Russia is helping them even here. In the infrastructural projects also, Russia is developing the railway lines and leading to railway linkages between North Korea and Russia. Last but not the least, you all know the American factor plays a very important role in their friendship, because they both face a lot of challenges from the same Western countries led by USA. So a lot of times the commentators, the international observers, they are worried that Russia, in collaboration with China, has been doing a lot with North Korea to thwart this Western influence that is going on. And the South Koreans to some extent are even worried that this unity between them may offset the alliance that they are trying to raise between Washington, Tokyo and Seoul. So that's the thing about North Korea. Just remember it from the viewpoint of Russia. An old article that has come many a times from the health, a vaccine that prevents 6 cancers. Now, I have taken out some facts with regards to this. This is related to health. Number 1, January is observed as Cervical Cancer Awareness Month. March 4th is observed as International HPV Awareness Day. HPV vaccination can prevent cervical cancers that can seriously affect women's health. And this is the 4th most common cancer amongst the women worldwide. As far as India is concerned, India cervical cancer is the 2nd most common cancer amongst the women after the breast cancer. In 1983, Harald Zurhausen had demonstrated that this cancer in humans is caused by certain types of papilloma virus, also known as Wart viruses. So we have already developed HPV vaccination and screening for precancerous lesions. And research indicate that HPV vaccine is not widely accessible to all the girls across India. Trust me guys, if you know this 8 facts, this article more or less is covered. So please understand these are the most important points here. Apart from this, if you know, this is a cancer that happens in uterus and affects a lot of women. As I've already said, it's the 4th most common cancer across the world. People say around 3 lakh, the numbers say 3 lakh women every year die because of this cervical cancer. And 9 out of these cancer patients, they belong to lower or middle income countries. So the writers in this article are saying if we do not act on them, then this number is only bound to increase. As far as India is concerned, they have given their projections that in 2040, there will be around 191,346 cases of cervical cancer, which would be an increment of 54% compared to 2020. Now, how can we stop? the good thing is there is a vaccine available. The bad thing is that this is not widely accessible. As you all can understand, specifically in the lower resourced communities. Now, in this, the writers are giving a strategy that's termed as 90-70-90, called by WHO as their strategy. World Health Organization is giving this strategy. What is this 90-70? Guys, basically this is intervention targets in terms of percentage. That is 90% girls by the age of 15 must be vaccinated. Then 70% of women by the age of 35 and again by 45 must be screened for this cancer. And third, 90% of women who are detected with cervical pre-cancer or cancer lesions must be given some sort of treatment. So their point is, if we do this 90-70-90 strategy, where in the first target the girls, give them vaccination, in the women keep on doing screening. Once a woman is identified with cervical pre-cancer, please give her the treatment. If we do this, invariably we will be able to resolve this problem. Now, coming to India, please understand this vaccine was introduced as early as 2008. And why so much of news? Because recently in the interim budget last month, Madam Nirmala Sitharaman had made announcement with regards to this. What was the announcement? We have discussed 2 times. The announcement is that they will roll out a universal immunization program in 2023. If this is done, a huge service would be done to all those ladies and women who cannot afford it, because you all know the biggest problem here is about affordability. The biggest problem is that people have to spend a lot out of pocket. The money is spent. So this, if it is done, it will take care of that. You all can see on 21st February, keep it wholesome had been discussed by us, and before that also we discussed once. So please remember, in this article, the last part, they are saying if we do the vaccination, it can prevent 6 types of HPV cancers, out of which 5 occur in women: the vulva, the anal, the vaginal, the throat, and the cervical. So their recommendation is that these vaccines should be given right from the age of 9, and it should be made a part of universal immunization program that the government is also planning to roll out. Let us move to the last 3 articles. Now this is something that everybody knows. Global warming is happening, and a recent research says if this happens, there might be droughts in Himalayas. So if the temperatures go up by 3 degrees Celsius, in a magazine known as Climate Change, a journal, they have published that 80% of the increased human exposure can be avoided if we adhere to the goals that have been set in Paris. And they are saying we have done a collection of 8 studies. These 8 studies were done in these 6 countries: India, Brazil, China, Egypt, Ethiopia, and Ghana. And we have found that the risks of drought, flooding, declines in crop yields, loss of biodiversity, natural capital greatly increase for every additional degree of warming. The more the earth becomes warmer, the more the risk of all this. In fact, they have also said one thing, that in India, you can see about 90% of this Himalayan region will face drought if this increases by 3 degrees. Similarly, pollination will get reduced by half if this much is increased, at 3-4 degrees versus reduction by a quarter at 1.5 degree. So you can understand, if 3 to 4 degree increase in temperature, pollination becomes half. If we control it to the target at this, it will only be quarter. So basically, this findings which have been done in the journal Climatic Change, they are clearly saying that we have to adhere to this 1.5 degrees Celsius. Otherwise, this would become very, very problematic. Now, in this article, the last thing that they are talking about is they want to develop a capital risk register for all these 6 countries. What is this capital risk register? Basically, they are saying under this we will include the projected changes in risks that stem from future human population changes. So what changes are happening in this country, based on that we shall be preparing a capital risk register. So overall, please remember, this particular topic mainly concerns with the Paris targets plus the IGPC, Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change, their point IPCC, they are talking about their reports of 2022, that how, with every amount of degree increasing when it comes to global warming, how the results would be devastating for entire world. In India also it would be, you can see agricultural land to drought with 3 degree of warming. More than 50% of agricultural land in each of the countries was projected to be exposed to severe droughts longer than a year if this continues over a 30-year period. So clearly something has to be done to control the global warming. Similarly, in Science Only, there was another article, Big Swedish Body Hints at Link Between Bowel Disease and Infant Diet. Now, it's a very lengthy article. I have taken some 4 important points for you people, and let me tell you, in crux, this big article, they are saying that diet, age, family history, plus medications, smoking are some of the causes of IBD. Now, what do you mean by IBD? IBD means inflammatory bowel disease. Now, IBD in this article is clearly written that this IBD are of 2 types. You can see I have mentioned for you, this is 2 types of disorder. One is ulcerative colitis, where the large intestine and the rectum are prone to inflammation and sores. Another one is Crohn's disease, which usually affects the small intestine. Such a big article, I personally found this is the most important point that you should remember for your exams. Now here another point that they are saying, that diets of infant as young as a year could affect their chances of developing IBD in future. So what these researchers are saying, that they did a survey of almost 80,000 children in Norway and Sweden. And what they found out is that those children who consume a lot of fish, a lot of vegetables, in the first year of life, they are less prone to IBD. Whereas those children which have a high intake of sugary items, they have a very, very big chance that they would be, prone to this IBD. See, sugary items plus you can mention processed food or even snacks, ultra processed food, all this would affect the children in a big manner. So you all can understand, everyone, that this is your healthy food. So healthy food is what? Let's say vegetable, egg, fish. What is the non-healthy food? Anything salty snacks are non-healthy. Even sweet snacks, they are non-healthy. So these are certain things that you have to remember. Now, Beyond this, in this article, they have also mentioned that there are concerns about Indian government's distribution of iron fortified rice that had allegedly exacerbated complications from undiagnosed single cell anemia, thalassemia, and dormant tuberculosis in tribal populations of Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand. Now, why this line is mentioned in this article, please understand. They are saying that you cannot directly implement what studies we have done and you cannot implicate in India. Why? Because in India, the people would be suffering from their own different types of nutritional deficiencies. They might have some dormant infections. So, please do a research on Indians also and then only do it. So, for example, in concerns are what? That Indian government has distributed this rice which has iron, more iron, and this has led that there are complications in the tribals of Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand because of all this. So this is the most important thing that is mentioned here. Last article for the day, very simple. The Department of Telecommunication, they have launched Chakshu. That's a platform for telecom users to report fraud or spam callers. What you have to do, this facility is available on sancharsarthi.government.in/SFC. Here you can go and you can report any suspected fraud communication. So if you are having any issue with regards to bank accounts, payment wallets, SIM, gas connection, electricity connection, KYC update, expiry deactivation, even sextortion, for all this is the place where you should go. Apart from this, they are also, the ministry is also supporting caller name presentation. Basically, they are saying this would allow all those telecom users who opt for the service to view the registered name of everyone who is calling them. So if somebody is calling me, what is their registered name would come on my mobile. So basically this is a right to know feature. Yesterday the minister, Honorable Minister Mr. Ashnavi Vaishnav had said that this is just like somebody knocks on your door. You want to know who is there. You would ask their name. Similarly, if somebody is calling you, their name would come over here. And this is being, introduced by TRI. Many people are saying this is, infringement of privacy rights, but the others are saying, no, this is something that is needed. So with that, we are done with the discussions. Of course, two main questions. Number one, without parliamentary privileges, members of parliament cannot discharge their functions assigned to them by the constitution. Discuss 250 words, 15 marker. Question number two, discuss why Union Territory of Ladakh is demanding to include itself in the 6th schedule. 150 words, 15 marker. So these are the two practice questions. Remember, this Friday you have an explained article on the first topic that we did about the historic Supreme Court judgment that came yesterday. Apart from that, I hope you enjoyed the lecture, you understood the concepts. Please give your comments on this. Do like it, do subscribe it. And if you want a one-to-one counseling, you can fill the forms and we would be more than happy to help you. That's all from this discussion. Thank you. Goodbye.